Farming industry. Welcome to the show Farming Industry, a show that shows how a commodities production chain translates into an agro-industrial development system. Farming industry. The topics we will cover today include egg incubation, the process of raising chickens for slaughter, the industrial process of turning birds into meat, and recommended economic indicators. When we come back, we will take a look at the incubation process. But before that, we must switch a tire to comply with the biosafety regulations. Let's go.
A chicken breed is considered good if it has an enhanced ability to convert food into meat in a short amount of time. Their physical traits should include wide body, ample breasts, prominent and shiny eyes, agile movements, upright standing position, clean and well-defined navels. Two common breeds for broiler production are the Ross and the Cobb, both of which are efficient in terms of production. The Ross is a robust broiler chicken. It grows fast, it's easy to feed, and it has good production yields. It has been designed to satisfy the demands of clients that require consistency and versatility in order to comply with a wide range of final product requirements. The Cobb is a broiler chicken that is very efficient at converting feet into meat, and it has an excellent growth rate. It has a high food conversion ratio. It has superior yields. They grow very fast, eating low-cost diets, and they are very uniform, which makes them very competitive.
The incubation process consists of a combination of physical environmental factors that affect egg production. Let's learn more about it.
When the hen lays her eggs, they come out at a temperature of 40 degrees Celsius, which allows the embryo to begin developing. In the chicken meat industry, we need a consistent incubation process, so the eggs are cold-tempered for 2 or 4 days at 17 or 19 degrees Celsius in the storage room. At this stage, we also classify the eggs according to their weight, and those that fulfill our criteria are selected. Before the eggs are placed inside the incubating machine, we have to adjust both temperature and humidity, since it's harder to adjust after the eggs are introduced. The entire incubation process is meant to simulate the mother hen, her temperature, humidity, and handling. When the hen is laying on her eggs, she is constantly rotating them with her feet. What she and the machine accomplish is to float the embryo to prevent it from sticking to the membranes.
This type of machine allows air to flow through the embryos in such a way that the embryonic heat emanated by the older embryos can be transferred to less developed embryos, which depend on these machines to keep their temperature. These are multi-stage machines. We have embryos ranging from 1 day old all the way to 18 days.
The artificial warming of the eggs during this process is done through heat exchange between air and the eggs. The temperature ranges between 37 and 38 degrees Celsius for the first 18 days, and then you have to lower the temperature for the last 2 or 3 days.
The most critical part of the process is the first 5 days. That's when most of the growth of the internal organs takes place. Also critical is the hatching stage between 17 and 21 days, because that's when their respiratory system is adapting to breathing with their lungs. They are then transferred to another type of machine, which is when you can have the most embryo losses.
After being kept at the proper incubation temperature, the egg comes alive and becomes an embryo. The embryo grows and slowly takes shape. The embryo feeds on the nutrients present in the yolk. As the future bird grows, it first occupies the space held by the yolk, and then the egg whites, eventually taking over the entire egg. Once the chick is grown, it breaks the shell using its beak.
Farming industry. Farming industry. We continue with Margarita Cadavid, reproduction coordinator. She will tell us about the sexing process, how to care for a newborn chick, and how to vaccinate them. The specialist. For this species, the sexing process is done with the wings. The female chicken grows feathers quickly and has 2 lines on her wing feathers, primary and secondary. The primary line is larger than the secondary. In males, it is the same size. Farming industry. You have to treat them well and keep them at an optimal temperature and humidity so that the chicks will be comfortable. They must be kept well ventilated and should be placed on the ground as soon as possible so that they can start to eat and drink. The chicks are vaccinated through a subcutaneous injection against 2 antigens, at this stage against Marek's disease and Gumboro disease. Other diseases are more common, but Marek's disease is extremely dangerous, and the health authorities force us to vaccinate against it. The Gumboro vaccine can be administered inside the incubator. Some clients prefer to vaccinate inside the incubator and finish out the rest of the vaccination on the farm. Others prefer to apply both vaccines on the ground. Here, we apply Marek and Gumboro on a 1-day-old chick.
After vaccination, the chicks are ready to be transported to the coop where they will be raised.
We now move on to the chicken coop in compliance with biosafety regulations. They live inside this coop from the day they are born until day 37 or 42, depending on market supply and demand conditions. Veterinarian Cesar Aristizabal will tell us about how to manage the coop before receiving the chicks. Farming industry.
Previa al recibimiento de los pollitos en el galpón.
Before receiving the chicks in the coop, we have carried out an exhaustive disinfection program that tries to keep this place free of diseases. We disinfect the sawdust we receive. We make circular pens, and we cover them in paper. This paper helps us keep the coop warm, and it serves to support the feeding bins. We place the feed bins and watering troughs around the circle. We put in a heat lamp to help keep the coop warm, approximately 30 degrees during the first week. We install wind-breaking curtains inside and outside the coop. They help us to maintain the coop heated. If you manage the curtains properly, you can also provide good ventilation and keep the chicks comfortable. We try to raise an animal that's as healthy as possible, with good temperature, humidity, and ventilation conditions.
De temperatura, de ventilación y de humedad.
Farming industry. The feed provided to broiler chickens is nutritionally balanced, and it provides all the nutrients necessary to guarantee good production yields. Let's learn about their laddered feeding process.
As part of the feeding process, we use three kinds of feed. In the first phase, which we call the pre-starter phase, we supply 200 grams for a span of 10 days. During the second or starter phase, we supply 800 grams for 25 days. And in the final or finishing phase, we feed the chickens approximately 2,500 grams until they reach target weight. It should be noted that the first two phases have higher protein requirements, which helps the chickens to form strong bones. It's during the last feeding phase that the chicken develops the muscles needed to support its bone structure. All throughout, they are supplied with water on demand.
Farming industry.
When it comes to drinking troughs, it's vital to make sure that the chicks have immediate access to fresh water at a temperature of 21 degrees Celsius. We recommend that when you first receive the chicks, you give them water first and put out the food 3 to 6 hours later. During the first week, we recommend one drinking station for every 50 or 100 chicks placed in a radial pattern around the heating lamp and in between the feeding troughs. After the 37 or 42 days they need to reach full market weight, they're transported to the processing plant.
The processing plant is the final stage in the production chain of chickens raised for meat. It's divided into clean, semi-clean, and dirty areas. Here, we can see how animals are sacrificed, packaged, frozen, and stored. Process manager Alejandro Saldarriaga will accompany us on this tour.
The plant's layout is divided into 3 operational areas. First is the dirty area. That's where the chickens arrive from the farms in plastic bins. Each bin contains between 9 and 11 animals. They are weighed and then directed to the receiving area. From there, they are put on an assembly line where various steps are taken. They are first hung and then rendered immobile by electric shock. We regulate their arterial blood pressure so that in the later stage, which is the exsanguination stage, at least 50% of the blood is drained. From exsanguination, they move to the scalding stage, where we put them through hot water and air in preparation for the next stage, defeathering. This is done with mechanical rubber fingers that remove all of the feathers. The second stage, evisceration, is done in the semi-clean area. Here, we can see an automatic conveyor system where the edible and non-edible entrails are extracted by 7 different machines. The first equipment takes out the cloaca. The second one makes an abdominal cut. The third extracts the package. The fourth removes the stomach and the trachea. Step 5 is the severing of the heads. We continue with a final vacuum inspection, and then the carcass is washed. This stage is complemented by a team that separates out the edible entrails. They select the liver, the heart, the gizzards, and they separate the heads and the feet. At last, we go into the clean area. It begins with an area where the edible entrails and the carcasses are cooled down from their initial temperature of 40 degrees Celsius. By law, we have to drop the temperature to at least 4 degrees Celsius. After this very critical stage, they go to the packing stage. There are two products. One is the whole chicken with or without innards, and the packaged pieces, drumsticks, thighs, wings, and the like. After packaging, they enter a tunnel where the temperature is reduced from 4 degrees Celsius to 0 or minus 2 degrees Celsius. The chicken sold as fresh is taken to the warehouse for distribution, and the chicken that's going to be frozen will stay another 16 to 20 hours until it reaches minus 18 degrees Celsius. Traceability has two components. First is to locate the chicken in every stage of the operation, meaning tracing a problem backwards and forwards. In our company, traceability starts from the egg-laying hens and ends with the final consumer. Whenever we have a situation, we can figure out what happened and where. Another thing is that we truly like to know how our chicken fares in any market. Oftentimes, we distribute to a place thinking it's the final destination, but then we get customer feedback from places we never thought we could reach. Good manufacturing practices are the sum total of a whole series of processes and procedures carried out by everyone inside the company's value-added chain. What we want is for the consumer to be happy with our product.
Farming industry. Farming industry. The quality systems in place allow us to sell a product that is optimal condition for consumption. Quality Director Miriam Arbeláez told us about her department's state objective. The main job of the quality department in a poultry processing company is, as its name says, to guarantee the quality and sanitation of the product. We guarantee the quality of all of the characteristics that the consumer is looking for when it comes to buying chicken. We also make sure the product is completely sanitary so it doesn't harm the consumer. In order to guarantee both of these conditions, the company has embarked on certain certification processes, like HACCP, which guarantees that the product does not harm consumers. We also implement quality systems, like the ISO system we're currently implementing. These two systems help to make our company stronger and help them to deliver products that meet the conditions the market requires. And thanks to that, we have made deals with other countries, and we've been able to export. We've been approved in Venezuela and Russia, and we're exporting chicken feet to Hong Kong. We also have another very important task in the quality department, and that's environmental management. It's very important for companies not to harm the environment and for the community to feel comfortable with them. That's why the company has professionals managing its environmental impact. They employ people that are constantly monitoring the processes that control fresh water supply, the wastewater plant, the process of managing and recycling solid waste, and so forth. That's how this type of company can become a model of clean production, by properly managing its environmental impact and relations with the community.
Vitamin content. Chicken meat contains folic acid, vitamin 3, and niacin. It contains minerals such as iron and zinc, and it's an important source of phosphorus and potassium. The nutritional value of chicken innards is very high, especially that of the liver. It has a high protein and lipid content, and it has a large amount of minerals and vitamins, especially B12, A, vitamin C, and folic acid. Chicken meat is very easy to digest. It can be prepared in many different ways. Chicken meat is suitable for those who are trying to lose weight, as long as you choose low-fat cuts like the breast. You take out the skin and you prepare it using cooking techniques that require little or no additional oil. This organization represents the country's poultry producers. It is set up to defend Colombia's poultry industry. It's an industry that generates over 250,000 direct jobs inside the country. It moves 5.3 million tons of cargo throughout our country's roads, and it helps to feed the 44 million Colombians that live in this country. It basically helps the industry remain competitive. Colombian poultry producers have made an enormous effort throughout the years to make sure Colombian consumers can buy a product that's competitively priced, that's very high in quality, and that's versatile. Those are the traits that have made chicken meat the king of animal proteins in the eyes of Colombian consumers. Poultry production is a dynamic industry. Since 1990, it's the only sector that's grown at an average annual rate of 5.3% per year. Last year, Colombians ate 1.15 million tons of chicken meat and over 9.6 billion eggs. This adds up to a per capita consumption of 23.3 kilos of chicken meat and 215 eggs. As I have mentioned before, it's a sector that generates a great deal of employment, moves a large amount of cargo, and which includes 7 poultry-producing regions. 75% of production is concentrated in the provinces of Santander, Cundinamarca, and Valle del Cauca. Production has been slowly growing in Antioquia, the Atlantic coast, and in the coffee-growing region.
Farming industry. We've reached the end of this program about chicken meat production. Remember that if you have any suggestions or would like to participate in our show, please write to us at TvAgro@globalmedia.tv. Until next time.